Jay right in your face.
Welcome back to the Faedaway podcast, episode number 15. This show is brought to you guys by ballislife.com. This is a Ball is Life podcast. Happy to come at you second time this week for a special Traedaway episode.
Traedaway.
Happy trade deadline. Happy 2021 trade deadline to everybody around there. It was quite the exciting trade deadline. I don't think people expected it to be this exciting. I don't think anyone expected Orlando to off-haul their whole roster
team,
in about an hour. That was pretty exciting. So a lot to talk about, man. But how's your week been? I know it's only been a couple of days since we've been on here.
Yeah.
But boy, has it been different. Have things changed since we last came here?
Exactly. And this was one of the most, I think Woj had tweeted out, 16 teams and 37 or I don't know how many trades or how many bodies moved, but this was like one of them. I think the most activity in the trade deadline 35 years. So it was busy, and especially for Raptor fans, it was a really hectic trade deadline. That the whole day, even all the way up to 3:00, people were refreshing
even from
Twitter.
The day before, like a couple days before, it was a whole week thing.
It was
and
stressful.
Just to add to your thing, by the way, 16 trades, 23 teams, 46 roster players, most ever in each category in the past 35 years.
It was busy, and that's not even including the picks that were moved as well too. So a lot of movement going on, a lot of teams deciding what the future of their season will be like. So it was really interesting. But let's just get started with the Toronto Raptors. And this might have been honestly one of the only times in history that the Raptors were in the media this much for
players that the people want our players.
People wanted our players, and it was all over the media. Even obviously the American sports media was talking about it, and their sports analysts were tweeting stuff about Lowry or about Norm or about the Raptors. So it was a busy deadline for them. So they sent away Norm Powell. That was the big deal that they pulled the trigger on.
Farewell, Normie.
Farewell, Norm. Norm, there's no doubt. He's a Raptor forever. He's one of those guys that was loved by all the Raptors fans. So it was very, very sad to see him go. But a huge but. I think this deal was great. The Toronto Raptors received Gary Trent Jr. and Rodney Hood from the Portland Trail Blazers. Now, when I see a deal like that going down, it's sad. It's one of those bittersweet ones because you lose a player that you love, but the package that the Raptors got for it is not bad at all. And you have a guy like Gary Trent Jr. who is essentially a younger Norman Powell. But when you really compare, he's only a third year guy. When you compare his numbers compared to Norman Powell's first 3 years, he can ball. He can play. I think he's averaging around 15 points per game this season. Shooting from three, just right at 40% from three. So he's a guy who can score. He's a guy who knows already how to play alongside two dominant guards.
He can defend too.
And he can defend. So I think from that perspective, there's a lot of low-key things that he brings to the table that not many people know about, in my opinion. So I love that deal. I know you want to talk about Gary. I know what you want
absolutely.
to comment on.
I'll definitely talk about it. So farewell to Norm.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question that what impact he's had on the city.
Huge.
On every playoff run, there's been Norm runs. There's been, he's been
Playoff
the guy
Norm,
against
yeah.
Milwaukee. Playoff Norm, exactly. And you don't win that championship without Norm and his contributions. So shout out to Norm. It was a great run, and it's great to see guys, come in through the system. He really struggled in the first many years of his career. So to see him to get to this point now, and that the confidence to be a starter, to be a regular starter, and to be a guy that is sought out in the league, apparently, allegedly, according to rumors.
He was.
But a guy who's sought out in the league and who ends up on a pretty good team, a contender, to some degree, a contender.
They're
He's
making
playing
a
with
push.
an MVP player in Dame Lillard. So it's cool to see, but there's no question the Raptors don't get fleeced.
Not at all.
The Raptors don't. I don't want to hear it. Gary Trent Jr. just turned 22 years old. He's a restricted free agent this summer. And there's this mythical cloud going over that. They're like, he's going to get offered $20 million a year and you're going to have to
There's no way. There's no way.
Because he declined a 4-year, $53 million extension from Portland.
Okay.
I don't know anything. I just saw that he declined a 4-year. if I had to guess, it could be one of two things. A, he thinks he could get more than 13 a year.
Yeah.
Or B, which we were talking about off air, his position in Portland is not one that I'd really want to grow in and sign an extension in. He's never going to have that opportunity to be that guy. As long as you're playing with Dame in his prime, you're playing with CJ in his prime, and then we said they got Anthony Simons, Robert Covington, all these wing type level players. So we don't know. Maybe he didn't like the city of Portland. Maybe he didn't want to go somewhere. Who knows? But we don't know what the situation was. I don't think he's going to get offered 20 mil. You went through the whole list of free agents next summer. It's a deep one.
There was a whole lot of free agents this summer.
It's a deep one.
Name a few: Chris Paul, Kawhi Leonard, Mike Conley, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Drew Holiday, Victor Oladipo, Dragic, Dennis Schroeder, Evan Fournier. There's a whole bunch of guys that are going to get paid before him.
A handful of players that'll exactly get paid. They're more proven. He is a good player, but look, when you compare him to Norm, he doesn't create offense the way Norm creates offense, but Norm creates offense like this now. Gary Trent's in his third year, like you said. He's played largely behind CJ and Dame, so he's not really getting much playing time. Thankfully for him, and obviously thankfully CJ is all good and safe, but thankfully for him, CJ went down with that injury because he got a lot of run. Yeah. He was very productive. He's putting up 15.5 points a game this year in his third season, 40% from three. Very impressive. He's playing very good defense, which fits the mold, fits the timeline of our core guys. I'm happy with the Gary Trent pickup. Like, people, get a pick.
No, well,
let's call it what it is. Norman Powell. Okay, Norman Powell. Someone on a Facebook group I'm part of, they're like, I expected Norm to gauge or to get us a first and Gary Trent.
There's no chance of first.
So there's a couple things here, man. Norman Powell last year averaged 16 points a game, and that was a career high. Only year he's averaged double digits, 16 a game. Mm-hmm. He's never been an all-star in his career, never sniffed All-NBA. And on top of that, it's an expiring deal. Yeah. Yes, he's having a great season this year. He's very productive. He's scoring a lot of points. He's looking really good. But let's call it what it is. He could be a rental to any team out there. Why would they give you a young, bright prospect and a first-round pick?
Yeah, they're not going to do that. And even if they don't give you a first-round pick, if you really want, you get a second-round pick. But the Raptors got a guy who actually is a second-round pick. Gary Trent is a second-round pick, and who's already proven, who already can play in the league, who already can play alongside stars. So you're going to get.
And he's played in the playoffs.
And he's played in the playoffs and hit big shots in the playoffs and has contributed a lot in the playoffs. So you're going to go for a second-round pick for a guy or a young prospect who might make it, might not make it, while you have a guy, Gary Trent, who is already killing it in the league and can already ball. So at the same time, though, you also get a bit bigger. Gary Trent Jr. is 6'6". Noah Powell was 6'4". So I think that's a low-key victory for the Raptors there, too, because the Raptors really did need a lot more size on the perimeter, and they needed longer guys. And you love that Gary Trent is committed to defense. I think that was starting to become the difference this year with Norm. Defensively, with increasing your offensive output, your defensive output is going to decrease as well. So having a guy who can score the basketball, can shoot, and really cares about defense is going to be huge for the Raptors.
Yeah, and people need to also understand, they keep forgetting the fact that with the bubble, with like seasons being merged, his second and third season have essentially been molded together. Yeah. His NBA debut was November 2018. That's less than 3 years. That's 2.5 years ago.
Very
So
young.
you're talking about a guy in 2.5 years that upped his average from 3 points a game to 9 points a game to 15.5 points a game. I'm happy.
Yeah, it's a great deal.
I'm happy. Like, listen, I'm happy that Norm ended up in a contending situation. I'm happy that he ended up in a place where he can play meaningful basketball, contribute. But at the end of the day, you got a bright young guy. And then one thing I'll say about the other one, Rodney, I forgot his name.
The contract kicker. The contract kicker. That's what we need to balance, man.
So one thing I'll say about him is, yes, he's recovering from an Achilles injury. Hasn't really been productive this year.
No.
Had a good year last year. He could have some upside. I think it's a wash. I'm looking at this trade as Gary Trent for Norm.
Yeah.
And then you get this guy as a bonus. If he shows up, if he can produce off the bench, great. If not, that's okay. We have Paul Watson, who's coming into his own. And
it's a team
Bembry
option for
well.
his second year too, Rodney Hood. So it would be for $10 million next year, which I think is going to be overvalued for him, especially how he's playing this year. So it's a nice kicker. You never know, he can produce off the bench. He could maybe come to life and get you something. He's proven he can score, so he might really help you out with that bench scoring. But like you said, it's pretty much Gary Trent for Norm, and the Raptors got younger. The Raptors got more cheaper, more defensively sound too. So it's a great deal for that, and it's a great deal for Portland. who need a guy who can score now and make a playoff push now. Having a young guy like Gary Trent, you never really know how he's going to perform. Even though he has performed well, Norm has proven he can put up numbers.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It's a good way to maybe introduce him to their culture and maybe re-sign him at the end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about how Kyle Lowry didn't get traded.
Huge.
Because there was a whole farewell tour hosted for Kyle Lowry.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone was pretty much, including Kyle himself, I think he got teary-eyed in the press conference, and DeMar's calling him and Drake's calling him, and it's a whole farewell thing, and everyone thought he was gone. And he was not gone.
No.
Philly was tied in. Miami was tied in. LA was tied in. At the end of the day, nobody wanted the price that Masai was asking for. So I've come on here many times this season, and you're too hard on Lowry. You don't respect the GROAT. You don't respect
the GROAT.
Can we finally agree that there's nobody in the world, in the league, that values Kyle Lowry the way the Toronto fans and the Toronto Raptors value Kyle Lowry? I feel like people think Kyle Lowry is 28 and he's being traded. Like, he should get us 3 first round. He's 35.
Yeah.
He's 35, dude.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle. I mean,
he's got mileage on
the Raptors.
legs.
The Raptors have put Kyle Lowry on a pedestal, man. There's no doubt about it, and it's proven because I don't think there's a team out there that would have also offered him $33 million a year and $30 million a year.
You want what? 2 years, 25 each,
and now he wants 2 years, 25 each.
Bruh.
And he I don't know if he leaked it or whatever happened, but I feel like that also might have turned off teams to really want to give up a lot of pieces for him. So, but I mean, there were. I mean. What Masai was asking for from Philly was Thibault, Maxey, and 2 second-round picks.
First, no?
I think it was 2 seconds. If it was 2 first, then he should have dropped it down to 2 seconds or 1 second.
Whatever. I don't know
what I mean, but
I'll see if I can search
I think I am glad though that Masai didn't pull the trigger on the Miami Heat trade. I think the Heat should have given up Hero. I'm on that side. I think if the Heat did give up Hero, I think the Raptors would have taken that deal, and that would have been a great deal. You get a guy like imagine getting a guy like Hero on the Raptors who can, put up buckets, can score in the clutch, can close games for you, which have been issues for the Raptors this year. That would have been a great deal, but they didn't want to give him up, and obviously why they don't want to give him up. So
because he's a stud.
He's a stud. So that's why. But
yeah.
I wouldn't want. I'm not sure how Duncan Robinson would perform on the Raptors. Not that he's not a good player. It's just he fits so well for them. I don't know if he would fit like that for the Raptors.
Apparently, they're optimistic that they can sign and trade him at the end of the year, so hopefully still get something.
I personally think that the value, like you're going to get less for him than what he would have got at the deadline.
An issue that they ran into was the fact that because of tampering, they can't sit down and he can't
difficult.
get the commitment that they're going to sign the 2 years. So I think that was a hindrance as well.
It is difficult for sure.
Whatever the case may be, I don't think that people saw what Masai was asking for as the right value for Kyle Lowry, which is a deeper discussion that we can get into later on. But you're a pro Kyle Lowry guy. I'm kind of like, hey, I like Kyle. I love what he's done for the team, but I'm okay with
I'm pro Kyle Lowry, but I'm not diehard Kyle Lowry. Sure. I would say I'm still realistic about it.
Fair enough.
We can agree on that.
Let's throw some honorable mentions out there before we move on, because the Raptors got rid of some youngsters.
Yeah.
They got rid of last year's rooks, Matt Thomas and Terrence Davis. So thank you guys for your service.
Yeah.
It was very short, and I wish you guys all the best. Let's talk about the Orlando Magic. Let's talk about the Orlando Magic, because they offloaded their whole roster in a matter of 35 minutes.
Busy.
They got rid of Vooch, they got rid of Fournier, and they got rid of AD. So let's talk Vooch. Vooch went to, this is Nikola Vucevic, All-Star this year, All-Star last year, on a pretty decent contract. He's around 21, 22 a year.
All-Star, man. That's what's key for them.
They ended up getting him down in Chicago for chips and cookies, I believe.
Otto Porter, Wendell Carter Jr., and a 2021 first-round pick.
Wendell Carter is like the young prospect kind of guy, but I mean, I'll take a 2-time All-Star proven guy any day of the week, especially when I have Zach LaVine. So
at least they got first-round picks, whatever. I mean, the Bulls right now are clearly making a last or a mid-season playoff push. They're in 10th place right now in the East. I like this deal for them. I think this was a great move. You pair Zach LaVine with a much-needed big for them, a guy who can take the scoring load off of Zach LaVine a little bit and create for himself. It's a great deal for them, and I think there was a lot of rumors also about Lonzo Ball joining the Chicago Bulls, which did not end up happening. If that ended up happening, I think that would have given them a lot of momentum,
Yeah.
and that would have put them in the middle of the Eastern
Chicago
Conference.
actually also got Daniel Tice
Yes.
from Boston.
Yeah.
So they really upgraded their big man position. I think they had like random dudes, and like
Wendell was
Carter
there.
and then another guy, a young guy maybe.
Yeah.
And they upgraded that into Tice and Vooch.
Yeah.
So I mean, shout out to those guys.
And they kept Markkanen, who hasn't been good, but who knows, maybe one day he'll find his footing. But they still managed to keep a young prospect like Markkanen. So not a bad deal for them at all. That's a great move for them. And Orlando clearly just going for the tank. They got 2 first-round picks, which is a good deal for them and what they're trying to do.
Okay, the way that I look at it is they were already mediocre with that roster as it is.
Yeah.
So why continue to spend money? Just gut it. Hope for the best.
And not only that, think about they also have Markel Fultz and
Jonathan Isaac
on
injured.
contract injured. So they've got young prospects locked in. You might as well start to rebuild around those guys when they come back.
We'll see if Mo Bamba can get some playing time, but I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
But interesting, man. Yeah, so let's move on. They got rid of AG.
Yes.
AG down in Denver, who I think personally won the draft. I thought they won free agency until Miami made a buzzer beater run for it at the end there. But AG, Aaron Gordon, ended up in Denver, which I love. The idea of him with Jokic. I imagine like a little, what's it called? Like a little Blake, DeAndre Jordan, alley-oop kind of thing. But Jokic is a much superior passer.
I think Jokic
it was only one directional.
Other way.
It's a unidirectional kind of thing. But Jokic is a very clever passer. Obviously, we know that. He's a superior player. Aaron Gordon is athletic. He's young. He's got potential. So, I don't know. I'm excited. I think he's shooting like 40% from 3 this year as well. So, he's shooting pretty well.
He's shooting decently. He's at 37.5, so he's getting up to 40. And he's on. And when you watch him play, he doesn't look like he's motivated to play much. So a winning situation like Denver hopefully can really light a fire under him.
He's young, man. He's like 25.
Yeah, he's young, still athletic, 6'8", big bodied. And he can do really well for you, and he can score the ball, and he can get you a lot of rebounds and help you on the boards. So also gets better defensively. Hopefully for them, he's a guy who can move laterally.
Denver brought home also big man JaVale McGee.
So they're stacking. If you really look at their team, they're a big team. And honestly, another big thing, sometimes addition by subtraction, they got rid of Gary Harris, who has not been able to produce for them in the last 2 years.
It's been really tough.
It's been really tough for him. He had a bit of a stretch where he played well, and then ever since then, he regained that momentum. So for them to essentially turn that into Aaron Gordon, a guy who can really, really play. Great.
I don't know how they got. I mean, Orlando. That one was. I don't know. They kind of got rid of everyone for free.
They had to.
But Aaron Gordon, like what he could do for Denver, I think is very exciting to see him with the young, because they're all young with Jamal Murray and Jokic. That's a young core.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see Denver play with that core. I'm excited with JaVale being back.
They still kept MPJ.
Oh yeah,
which is a huge deal for them.
They got a young,
so they've
great
got a
young core, man.
Great young core.
And I like what JaVale brings because they do struggle defensively.
Yeah.
So I like what he brings from that aspect
off
of it.
The bench too.
I don't know how much playing time he's gonna get, but I'm excited nonetheless.
At the end of the day, he's a guy who played with the championship Lakers and knows how they play. So if anything, he can really pick up and add a lot of value to that team without even playing too. So.
Absolutely,
a great deal for the Nuggets. Nuggets end up become a very big dark horse in the West. They're gonna do some damage in the playoffs.
Yeah, and the last one from Orlando is Evan Fournier. He ends up in Boston to be their 6th man of the year. He's a pretty productive player. He's doing pretty well this year offensively, but I feel like it's because he's kind of on a bad team, and I don't really understand the fit in Boston, given their existing roster with Tatum and Brown. But I mean, if he's gonna come off the bench, then maybe I see it's a fit for bench production because their bench is pretty bad. So if he can come in off the bench and give them production, that'll be pretty cool. He's historically not a great playoff performer.
Yeah. He's a volume guy. He's a guy who needs touches to, and just shoots the ball a lot. He doesn't really do much else other than that.
He should be Jordan Clarkson.
He should be the Jordan Clarkson.
It's your bench guy, your
but
Terrence
I just
Ross.
don't think Boston did enough this trade deadline. The rumor first was Boston for Aaron Gordon.
That should have been
the deal, and that should have been. And apparently Boston was his preferred location. They settled or ended up with Evan Fournier. That was a bit of a disappointment for the Celtics. I don't see them getting better. Miami definitely got better than them. Even Atlanta even improved, I think, but maybe not better than the Celtics just yet. But they just didn't do enough. And it was very, very interesting to see how Danny Ainge wasn't really able to maneuver much during this trade deadline.
No, not at all. I was very surprised, to be honest.
Yeah.
The fact that AG was given up for pretty much nothing.
Yeah. What were you waiting for?
That one was, a little bit interesting, but he ended up in Denver nonetheless, and I'm excited for that big three. And I'm excited that Boston didn't get a good player because I don't really
Boston.
care about Boston. So what do you want to talk about next, man? There's a couple more that we
can go with
dive into.
with the Miami Heat trade, the buzzer beater trade, and that was an absolute killer because now they're for real. They're for real now. So
before that move, actually, they made another move. They brought in Bielitsa.
Right, they brought in Bielitsa.
Who's a decent player, man. He's not a bad player.
Yeah, a low key move.
They got rid of Olynyk.
A very, very, very low key move for them. But the blockbuster trade was them picking up Victor Oladipo from the Houston Rockets, who had been rumored to go to different places and had been rumored to actually want to go and sign in Miami this offseason. Lucky for the Rockets, they were able to offload him. And the Rockets got Avery Bradley and Kelly Olynyk in return and a 2020 first-round pick swap. So they pretty much gave up Oladipo for nothing. The Houston Rockets. They didn't really.
Not just that. They gave up Karis LeVert for nothing because they had Karis LeVert, and then they traded him for Depot.
Yeah.
Offered him the extension. He declined it. Traded him for nothing.
Avery Bradley is a quality player, but he's not going to stay there for a long time. Kelly Olynyk is on an expiring contract. He's going to leave after the season. So
I would like him in Toronto.
I was very open to him being a part of the deal with Miami if the Raptors had made one. I like him in Toronto. I like that idea a lot, especially at the 5 spot. But the Miami Heat now pair Victor Oladipo, who's athletic as hell, can score, can defend, with Jimmy Butler, who's athletic as hell, can score, can defend. 2 wings who are greatly sized, 6'7", 6'8", maybe, committed to playing defense. The culture there is defensive. You still have Bam. They made a huge move, and now
he's been wanting to go there for many years.
So, and you have a great chance of re-signing him too for long term. Bring him in, and
if
he's yours.
He's theirs.
Exactly.
I think it's he's the one waiting for them to offer it.
So that team becomes very, very scary. I think they become
LaMarcus Aldridge
they pick up LaMarcus Aldridge.
Not picked him up yet, but he's pretty much is a favorite. That's the favorite
in the buyout market. So
for him.
They're stacking up for a playoff run. I think they're going to make the Eastern Conference Finals against the Nets. I think this trade it makes them very tough to guard and very tough to score on. And it's tough. Eastern Conference, I think they're better than Milwaukee.
Because we're forgetting that Milwaukee picked up PJ Tucker.
I'm not mad at that, but I don't think it's enough. I think if Miami was already able to lock down Giannis and that team, I know that team's a bit different with Drew Holiday.
Giannis is a different player this year, man.
He's a different player every year. But I think they can still do the same thing again. Giannis still can't really shoot from the perimeter, so he hasn't really done much. He's not much different. I just think they're too defensively sound. They're too disciplined. And adding an athletic guy, a guy who can score, can shoot the ball, like Vic, it gets so much tougher. I think they make the Eastern Conference Finals because of that trade.
If he plays, man, assuming he's healthy, assuming he can,
of course,
be available. But I think now that he's in Miami, he likes where he'll
want to be available.
He'll want to be available.
Yeah.
Exactly. So shout out to them, man. I'm happy to see it. I'm happy to see it for Miami.
Pat Riley,
indeed, man.
He's a thief, bro.
Lou Will got his heart broken, and I thought he would be happy about this because I didn't think that he was happy in LA.
Yeah,
and I thought that being home is a cool thing, but he came out and said, "I nearly retired yesterday." He said, "I nearly retired yesterday."
Actually, wow.
He posted on Insta. He's like, "You wake up." He's like, you wake up, not because Atlanta picked him up, but he said, I nearly retired yesterday because I can't do this anymore. You wake up and you give so much to an organization, then boom, it's gone. They just trade you.
Damn, really, really heartbroken.
He shouted out the Clippers fans pretty much, gave a nice little salute to the organization and the front office. But he said he's thankful to be in his backyard in L.A.
Atlanta.
Sorry, in Atlanta.
He's not from it there, is he? Like, why is this his backyard?
Spot.
Is this his spot, eh?
Yeah, it's just his spot.
Because everyone's like, yo, he's going home to Atlanta. I'm like, yo, he's not from there.
When I searched it up, it said he was from Memphis.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Google lied to me, but I don't think he's from there. But I think that's like his anointed city.
Second home,
You know how we Ours is like St. Catharines. Like,
yeah, okay, I got you.
ATL on a much larger scale.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, he ended up in Atlanta in exchange for Rajon Rondo. I love this trade for both teams.
Yeah.
I was surprised a lot of NBA media guys are like, I don't know, we're going to get out of Rondo. He's old. Like, do you guys not learn?
They don't.
Do you guys not learn? Like, every year?
Every time he gets traded, every time he signs, they always say,
I don't know. They're going to expect too much out of him. They said this one like 10 years ago. Like,
he's a great team
playoff
guy.
Rondo's a real thing.
Bro, he's a great team guy. He fits into every locker room. I just think that that reputation that he has for being like a bad guy that kind of got established when he was in Dallas. These media guys just haven't changed from then. But
he got it in Boston too. He was scrapping Ray Allen
at the end of Boston, yeah. But he's been able to come into situations and change teams. Man, you see what he did with the Pelicans. You see what he won a championship last year with the Lakers.
Lights out with the Lakers last year.
He can really, really help the Clippers, man. A guy who's not looking to score, so it really helps out Kawhi and Paul George. They don't have to worry about getting their touches and their buckets. A guy who wants to facilitate. I honestly, he might be too. The only thing is, I don't know how much motor he's got in him. How many minutes is he really going to play for your team?
All you need is the playoffs.
All you need is the playoffs. Absolutely. Is he going to start? Is he going to play 25, 30 minutes? Can he give you 30 minutes a night?
So they still got Pat Beverly.
I hate Pat Beverly though.
They don't.
I don't know why. I don't know.
And I think now with Rondo, it's easier because he can even play off the ball a lot.
That's very true. They can play on the 1-2. But I think it definitely helps people. It helps the Clippers, and they just don't learn. It's just that simple.
They don't learn. Yeah, these media guys don't learn. I think Rondo's a great addition, if not from a veteran standpoint, from a production as well. Yeah. What he can do in the playoffs. So I'm excited to see it. And I think on the flip side, Atlanta doesn't preach defense. They don't love defense, and I love it. They have an identity. They don't care. They're like, screw it. Bring in Lou Will. Let's add to the offensive machine that we have here. I think Lou Will is going to help run that second unit, and Atlanta's deep. Right, they're sitting fourth right now.
Yeah, they're winning games.
Yeah, they're sitting pretty. I like it. I think before the season started, I can't remember if you were, but I definitely was of the belief.
We thought they were a playoff team.
Both of us. We said 4-6 for Atlanta, and right now they're sitting in fourth. So interesting to see. I'm happy to see it. I'm excited for the league, man. I'm excited for tonight. Gary Trent Jr. is about to make his debut in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So we gotta hop off this thing very soon.
Yeah.
Did you want to add anything before we call her quits?
Maybe one more small deal, just because this involves the Dallas Mavericks. They received J.J. Redick, Nikola Meyi, maybe, I don't know, and then the New Orleans Pelicans received James Johnson and Wes Iwundu in a second-round pick. I think it's a big addition for the Mavs, just getting a guy like J.J. Redick, who was unhappy in New Orleans, getting a guy who can score, who can space the floor for Doncic.
I'm excited for the Doncic connection.
It's going to be huge. It's going to be huge for them. I don't think it makes them that much better, though. I just think it's more of a guy to come in and be able to put up buckets for them. But I don't think it makes them a playoff, really, more than a first-round playoff exit than really, because they haven't really had a good season. So
for sure.
Doesn't do much, but exciting move for them, I think.
Yeah, it doesn't move the needle, as they say, at all, but I'm excited to see that connection. One thing I want to say, Fiondu from Burlington, Ontario.
Yeah.
Traded from the Clippers to the Kings, then waived by the Kings.
Yeah.
So unfortunate for him, but I hope he can find his way back into the league, work hard, continue to get it. And O'Shea Brissett, Mississauga, Ontario, just got a 10-day with the Indiana Pacers, right?
Yeah.
I think you were saying.
Yeah.
So shout out to O'Shea. We still need you to come on the show, bro. And let's. I think he went to high school down the street, Gonzaga.
Yeah. He went to Gonzaga.
So we went to Joan of Arc. So I mean, it's all love now, but back then we probably hated each other. But shout out to everybody, man. I think that wraps it up for our Traedaway special edition episode. I don't know if you want to add anything else, but y'all know where to find us: YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Twitter, Instagram. Everywhere you send a DM, you'll find us. So hit us up. Let us know. Subscribe on the YouTube. And we'll come